We don't have enough fuel, and we are also entirely out of rations. Without the Republic to provide us supplies, we'll have to acquire these necessities on our own.
We got a bigger problem. Comchatter has our ship's signature on a wanted list.
So we scramble it.
You can do that?
Of course I can do it. But I need to land in order to perform those modifications. By my calculations, the closest planet is Pantora.
Oh, greetings once again, Bucketheads. Mevar Tigar? Welcome to the 57th Pantoran speeder stealing episode of Mando Vision. Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. Remember, the best way to reach out to us is via social media at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com, for those long, scathing diatribes you want to come at me with. That's the place you want to send them to. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, 5-star reviews. They are the best way to help support the show without having to spend a single dime of your own money. Or a single Republic or Imperial credit. You know, maybe some Mon Cal pucks. You know, those Mon Cal jelly credits. Those are fun. I don't think you want to keep those in your wallet, though. Probably don't stay fresh too long, I wouldn't imagine. All right, listen, we're here. We got a interesting show ahead of us. We got another episode of the Bad Batch to talk about. There's even a little bit of Star Wars news to get into. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's excited for the weekend. And yeah, we're gonna get things off to. I think we're gonna kick the weekend off with a really strong start, talking about this episode of the Bad Batch. What did everyone think? Are we still hyped? Are we still enjoying the show? I noticed some reviews of this episode that have a little bit more criticism than others. And we'll talk a little bit about this because much like last week's show, where we sort of split the review and the recap into two halves, into the two sides of that story, you know, Crosshair side of the story and then the rest of the Bad Batch on their part of the episode. We're going to talk about this episode in sort of broader terms because in a lot of senses, this episode is very, I don't want to use the term paint by numbers because it's not. It's a fun episode nonetheless. But there's not a lot of nuance to this one. And that will allow us to have a sort of different kind of conversation about this episode of The Bad Batch. And I am really excited to get into it because we're going to talk about some of the criticisms that I read about this episode. And I'm very curious how everyone feels about what I'm going to bring up. And I'm also very curious if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. And remember, that is okay on this podcast. We do not have to have the same opinion on things, as long as you know that this is a safe place for discussion. And that's what it's all about. You know, Star Wars fans don't have to see eye to eye all the time. We just can't resort to the name calling and the bullying and the generally awful tactics of the quote unquote internet trolls. And that's not what this place is. This is Mandovision. This is a safe place for all. And that is the bottom line. All right, so let's get into this episode. Actually, we're gonna kick it off with some news, but then we're gonna get into the episode right away. But still, we gotta do what we gotta do, and you know what we gotta do. It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Word on the channels is you're looking for a certain modified Omicron-class attack shuttle. I might know where to find it, but that information's gonna cost ya.
I'll make it well worth your while. Transmit the coordinates and make sure they don't leave.
Oh, who was that masked-voiced person? I bet you don't. You know who it was, but we're going to talk about that more later. Let's talk a little bit about that news that we have to talk about first. Again, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time because it's news is a bit of a strong word to describe what we're about to talk about here. But it is being reported around the internet that in a new Variety article, Rangers of the New Republic is, quote, not currently in active development, end quote. There has not been any statements from Lucasfilm or Disney about this. I have been checking for updates to see if they're going to comment on anything. And to be fair, it doesn't really mean anything. Not in active development just means that maybe they put it on hold. Maybe they have decided to reevaluate what the show's going to be, what it's going to be about, who it's going to be about. There's a lot of reasons why a show could end up in not active development. Does it stem from the situation with Cara Dune? Maybe, but we don't know for sure. They're not talking about it, then they're probably not going to talk about it. So this show that was announced last fall with that slew of other Star Wars shows for Disney Plus is in a bit of a holding pattern. We don't really know anything official just yet, but I wanted to make sure I shared the news with everybody in case you hadn't seen it on the internet at this point. Yeah, Rangers of the New Republic, quote, not currently in active development, end quote. Take that for what you will. And don't take it too harshly, too, because it could just mean very, very little. But what you should note is that we still have Andor and Obi-Wan Kenobi filming. The Acolyte is on the way, and Lando is also in the works. So there's going to be plenty of Star Wars shows coming. And don't forget, the Book of Boba Fett will be here at the end of the year. So tons and tons of Star Wars to look forward to. We're not going to have any shortage of that. I didn't even mention Ahsoka's show. I mean, there's Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. We're not going anywhere. Oh, and by the way, the show that started it all, The Mandalorian, will also be back. So let's not get too much into a tizzy about the situation. Again, there's not any real news to report just yet. It's not like if Disney or Lucasfilm has come out and said, "Oh no, we're not doing that anymore. That's over." It could just be a situation where they're like, we have a lot of things going on in the Star Wars universe right now. Let's pump the brakes on this one project for the time being. It's also possible that something story related will come up in the Book of Boba Fett or in The Mandalorian that sort of negates having to have this series, or negates having to have the series at the same timeline. Like perhaps it would be better to spin that show out of the events of this. Who knows? There's a lot of different things and a lot of different ways to take what they are talking about as far as not in active development. So let's not get too worked up. But let's get worked up about today's topic. We are here to discuss Season 1, Episode 4 of The Bad Batch, and this one's titled Cornered. Our dream team for this episode, directed by Saul Ruiz, written by Christian Taylor, and once again the story editor is Matt Mishnevitz, and I hope I am saying your name correct. But that is our dream team for that project, for this episode, and our cast. I can't wait to talk about this. I love this cast so much. Once again, the amazing, the incredible D. Bradley Baker back as the Bad Batch. Michelle Ang is Omega. Gray Griffin steps up as Citizen 1. CG-67, and the Fruit Vendor. You have Bobby Moynihan as Citizen 2 and the Traitor. And of course, the great, the one, the only, the amazing Ming-Na Wen returns as Fennec Shand. So excited about that. So very excited about that. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But Noshir Dalal returns. He's a Pantoran security in this episode. But he's also Vice Admiral Rampart as we see the chain code hologram once again on Pantora once we get to the planet there. And then Taran Killiam is the depot manager, the Godel, and the land speeder driver. So he's man of many talents right there. 3 voices in one show. Yes, let's talk about it because this is what's going on in this episode. This is sort of the big thing. We saw this in the trailers for The Bad Batch. Fennec Shand makes her animated debut. And again, we're roughly 20 years prior to her appearances in The Mandalorian. And it's really cool. I think we all love Ming-Na Wen. She's amazing. She's fantastic. If I were to be fancy enough to have a dinner party, I would invite Ming-Na Wen because I think she would be the greatest dinner party guest ever. And I bet she throws a mean dinner party too. I bet it's a lot of fun. And I would like to be invited to it for the record. So that being said, I'm excited that she's on this show. Now, when we were kind of warming up for this episode, one of the things I wanted to talk about was some of the criticisms about it. Oh, by the way, I didn't read the plot for this episode, but it's as all the other ones are, very basic. The batch's supply run, the batch's supply run goes awry, and it sure does. But let me talk about those criticisms of some of the stuff I've read in regards to this episode, and a lot of it seems to be pointed sort of in Fennec Shan's direction, and I think rather unjustly. I have commented on this show how sometimes when we're dealing with movies or events that are set prior to the events of A New Hope, that we spend a lot of time with everything sort of leading towards the rebellion or things of that nature, or the rebellion in particular. It seems like everything leads to like the rebellion or the Death Star, depending on what side of the fence we're on. And while that's neat and exciting, I don't feel like every story has to be tied to the birth of the rebellion or the things that we kind of already know. It can still be its own thing. And for some reason, people are criticizing this episode of The Bad Batch for kind of doing that with Fennec's character, in the sense that, like, instead of creating a new character who could be the one that pursues the Bad Batch across the galaxy, as she's hunting for Omega, or as this new character would be hunting for Omega, they've instead reverted to the familiar, to something that we know, and by bringing in Fennec Shand, so we'd be like, "Ooh, we know her. We like Fennec Shand. That's really cool." I don't see what's wrong with that. I don't understand that criticism of, oh, it's Fennec Shand. That's not that big a surprise. Well, why not? Why isn't that cool? Why isn't that a fun surprise? Fennec, we only have a taste of the Fennec character from the handful of episodes that she was in season 1 and season 2 of The Mandalorian. And she's a character that would seem to have a great backstory about her. And this, The Bad Batch, might be a great place to explore that backstory more and to get more information about who she is and how she came to be, perhaps. So I don't see the problem with it, because she's still a new character. A very new character that we know little to nothing about. So the criticism that Star Wars once again just reverts to the familiar, I think in this case is unfair and unjust. And I think we need to appreciate the fact that anytime we're getting more Ming-Na Wen in Star Wars, that's a good thing, and that should be celebrated, and we should all be really, really happy that she is a part of this new era of the Star Wars galaxy and its continual expansion into the new great things. And how much fun can it be for her to do this voice part and get a better idea of who her character is and her backstory? Now, it's possible that Dave Filoni filled her in, gave her the deets, when she took the role. Maybe she knows a lot more about her character's backstory than we have seen on the screen. But regardless, I think it's a really neat opportunity. I'm really glad she's a part of the show, and I really like the idea that the way this episode ends, she could be a character that is continually in pursuit of the Bad Batch and Omega, and I like that quite a bit. Why not have it be Fennec? It's spread the love a little bit. It can't just be about the Crosshair hunting them down, and his struggle with the Empire and the good soldiers follow orders. Look, as compelling as that story is, like, we got to have more facets to this gemstone of a show. And bringing Fennec in, again, a character that is still very, very new and we know little to nothing about. I have no criticism, no critique of that at all. I say bring it, more Fennec Shand. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this shakes out. And again, I will say it once again. Ming-Na Wen, please come to a fancy dinner party that I'm going to throw. That's all I can say about it, all right? So let's get into the episode proper, though. Let's break it down. So as you heard from the opening of the show, our heroes open their episode of the show in a bit of distress. They are running low on supplies. They're out of rations. So they're trying to find a planet to lay low, but because of that situation, they're forced to go someplace more exposed, and the nearest planet ends up being Pantora, which is a planet we have seen representatives from. We have had much contact with, especially in season 1 of the Clone Wars series, but we have finished reviewing a few weeks back. So by all means, go back and check out those Pantoran episodes. Great one with the Talls, one of my highlights from season 1, if you will. So we get to go to Pantora and see it for ourselves, and that's exciting. That's cool. It's always good to see one of the new worlds in the Star Wars galaxy, specifically one where we have spent so much time with characters from that planet. Now to go and kind of see that home world is really unique and exciting, and especially for Omega. She was not into the idea of going to a planet and laying low. She wanted to go see things. She's getting out from being with the Kaminoans, and she wants to explore the galaxy and see what's out there, see what the universe has to offer. And so she's excited. She is very pumped about the idea of going to Pantora, and that's sort of where we go. And we go there because also there's another little matter that their ship is now on an Imperial wanted registry, but Tech apparently knows how to change their transponder codes, but he has to be landed to do so. So that will be what they do while Hunter and Echo go on a tech run. A tech run. Just while Hunter and Echo go on a supply run, Wrecker and Tech will take care of the ship. There's an interesting opening scene there where they have to kind of meet with the dockmaster and bribe him, which is something new for them. So they get to do that, and this dockmaster is the one who reports them to Fennec Shan because he's aware that she's on the lookout for their make and model ship. And that was what gets Fennec involved in this episode, as she is on the hunt for Omega. Apparently, a bounty has been placed. And I suppose we are supposed to ask and wonder who put the bounty out for Omega. Though I feel like it's fairly... I don't think it's a deep thought that the thing is the Kaminoans themselves who need Omega to come back, because in the previous episode we heard them discussing how... their last copy, their last sample from Jango Fett is getting rather thin, and they need to sort of replenish that stock. And apparently Omega is part of that. It would be the viable sample, I suppose, to draw from for that. I'm hoping that gets explored more fully down the road, because I mean, if she is a clone like we suspect, I mean that's what we've been led to believe, right? But you have to wonder, what is it about her that would make it so that they could still use this Jango Fett genome for their cloning procedures, especially since they are now in a struggle to maintain their. Let's put it this way: the Kaminoans are probably making a ton of money off the Republic for building that army during the Clone Wars, and now they're sort of in flux with this empire. They don't have a deal in place with this empire, this new imperial regime, and. From a business perspective, they're trying to figure out how to make this all work so they can still keep getting paid. I would imagine the Kaminoans made bank off the Republic. So they want to keep that going, and the Fett sample is what the clones are all based on. Now, could we get to a situation where they have to select another genetic donor? I don't know, but Omega obviously factors into this. So I don't think it's a stretch to think that the Kaminoans are the one who have placed the bounty on recovering Omega, because to this point, the Empire doesn't seem that interested in her. So that's where my train of thought goes, is that it is the Kaminoans. They need her back because they need to like juice up their Fett genomes and get that sucker rolling again, so they can make some more clones to impress the Empire, and obviously Moff Tarkin, who's taken a great interest in possibly mothballing the cloning program because of a multitude of reasons, but expense is definitely on his list of reasons to get out of the cloning business for the Empire. So Hunter, Echo, and Omega go into the market, and we get to see that sort of like wide-eyed innocence of Omega as she's kind of taking in the sights and the sounds and presumably the smells of this Pantoran marketplace. Hunter is attempting to sell like their last, I think, is a mine, which is odd. And the Grand that he's attempting to sell it to tells him that maybe on the black market you could get the $1,800 credits or whatever it is he said it was worth, which is an interesting conversation. But this Grand, who has glasses, which is something I don't think I'd seen before on the Clone Wars or on Rebels, notices Echo in a bit of a disguise, and assumes that because of his robotic right arm that he is in fact a droid. So he attempts to buy the droid from Hunter. There's a funny exchange about how you can sell me, but not for 2,000 credits. Get more than that, and obviously it's the deception. They're just trying to get some money for supplies so they can get out of there, and then Echo will make a break for it. So they're scamming this Grand, but this Grand's wearing glasses. I think that prescription needs to be updated a little bit. I think they might have been a little cracked, so maybe that was part of the reason why he believed that Echo was in fact a droid. Again, Echo is in disguise. He has a helmet on. I mean, and I guess if you don't see that well, maybe your vision's impaired and you have some cracked spectacles. Maybe you could confuse Echo. Jeez, you could confuse Echo for a droid. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that like they're just willing to blatantly rip off this this store merchant and take all the I think it's 3,000 credits that they get for Echo as a droid. But it does come in handy later as Echo requisitions the rest of this merchant's droids to help repair the ship when they have to get the heck out of there. The other thing in this episode, again, we talk about that sort of wide-eyed innocence of Omega as she's exploring, and again, we've talked about how there's sort of like a family, a building between all of them, between Wrecker and Tech and Echo and Hunter and Omega, and they're kind of becoming this family unit. But they often forget that Omega is new to all these environments, to all these situations, and they have not taught her the most important thing that you could teach a small child: beware of stranger danger. Beware of stranger danger, and Hunter needs to talk to her about that. As they leave Pantorum at the end of this episode, he needs to sit her down and say, "Stranger danger. You do not talk to stranger danger," because that's kind of what this episode turns into. Fennec, Omega runs off to get a doll back that one of the these like weird, I forget the name of the creatures, these weird pups that I remember from seeing in Star Wars Resistance. Omega's playing with this doll, and the little pup creature takes it, and she chases after to get it back, because the store clerk had already chastised her once for, if you break it, you buy it situation. So she didn't want this doll to go away and her have to pay for it, I guess. So she just blindly goes down the street, leaves Hunter and Echo behind to pursue the doll. And that is where Fennec Shand makes her move and says, "Don't worry, little girl. Come with me to my windowless van, and we'll have a good time helping you find your friends." All right, there wasn't a windowless van, but you get the message. You understand what I'm saying. You're picking up what I'm putting down. So yeah, Omega, very trusting. Why wouldn't she trust this nice lady? Fennec unhelmeted, so a friendly look about her, I suppose, is the best way to describe the Fennec that she puts forth for Omega to see. Eventually, Hunter does notice that she's gone. Pursuit begins, and that's kind of the episode. It's a lot of great chases. There's some really good action in there. We see sort of like the ruthlessness of Fennec Shand as she just single shots kills the Pantoran security guard, not security guard, but security force, and causes mass havoc on Pantorum. Hunter swooping in, getting Omega, the pursuit through the sewers. Fennec handling Wrecker very easily, and Wrecker taking another blow to the head. This guy, in 4 episodes, I mean, he's got to be heavily concussed by now, right? I mean, I know he's strong and durable, but my goodness, it's only a matter of time before that brain turns into mashed potatoes. The way he's taking shots to the head in these first 4 episodes. But very cool to see Fennec be able to handle herself against a physically intimidating opponent like Wrecker. So again, something we've always known about Fennec Shand from the bit that we know, that she's good in situations where she may not seem like she has the advantage. Well, we haven't really seen that, but I think it's fair to assume that. For us to assume that about her, and now we get to see it, which is even cooler. And I did really, really like it. But that's basically the episode. I mean, Fennec, the Ugnaught who ratted them out, the Ugnaught Dock Master who ratted them out, is scared that Fennec's gonna come and kill him, but she, gives him a credit as a tip, is like, thanks for the tip, here's a tip, and let me know if they come back, kind of thing. So we see that Fennec is not one to like burn her bridges, as far as people who are feeding her information, and again, another bit of knowledge about who Fennec is. Not again, she seems relentless, but she doesn't seem like merciless. If you know what I'm saying. Like she didn't hold it against that Ugnaught that the Bad Batch made their escape, because I think she recognizes that this guy's a source. He provided valuable information. And he's an Ugnaught. Like, what was he going to do against 4 enhanced clone troopers? Not a darn thing. So that's kind of the episode. It's a fast-paced episode. It's fairly basic. I don't mean that as an insult, because it is an enjoyable episode of the show, and I had a blast seeing Fennec back in play here, and getting to see her in this time period of the Empire Rising, if you will. And so I'm very intrigued by the idea of seeing more of Fennec going forward. Like I said, will she be the character that pursues them from one side of the galaxy to the other, who makes it so they can't just lay low and figure out their next move and make some kind of plan? Because that's something that we don't have for the Bad Batch just yet. We don't really know what they're going to do. They're just kind of going from place to place right now, struggling, trying to figure it all out. But there's no plan. And I think that's probably the one thing that I hope we get in the next episode. I think Hunter needs to start figuring out what they are going to be and what they are going to become in this new era of the galaxy, of this post-Republic, Rise of the Empire era of the Star Wars galaxy. I think that's really, really important. I hope it comes soon. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, so far, if I were to have one criticism of the show, is I don't know what the Bad Batch's kind of purpose is at this point. Like, they just seem to be kind of wandering aimlessly from place to place. Again, trying to hide out, but not doing a great job of it thus far. So like, what's the ultimate goal going to be for the team? Are they going to become like the space version of the A-Team, and they're just going to go around and take missions and help people? That'd be kind of fun. I wouldn't be against that, especially get like some cool A-Team music going on, like a Bad Batch style. I'd be into that. Kevin Kiner can do anything. That guy's music's been fantastic for all the shows that he's scored in the Star Wars universe. So more great music, please. But yeah, I that's sort of my big question for what's next with the Bad Batch is, when are we going to sort of get their objective? Like, what is their purpose going to be? That's the only thing I'm kind of struggling with thus far through the first 4 episodes. And I think that's a fair request, right? I don't, we had this really, really beefy, complex, nuanced debut episode that was 70 minutes long. And that carried through the first, handful of episodes. This is the first one where I felt like it was a little light on the nuance and some of the character complexities. Again, but I enjoyed the episode. But we do need to get to our sort of mission statement for the Bad Batch here coming up. And I do think it's soon. I hope it's next week, but I hope it's very, very soon. Because I'd like to know. I am a concerned and interested party. What do you all think? Am I way off base with that request? Am I asking too much too soon? Or are you guys okay with the way it's being paced out? And they're just kind of struggling from place to place? Because, I mean, let's be honest. They from an emotional standpoint, they probably are reeling a little bit. Not only from the loss of everything they knew with the Republic, but obviously from the loss of Crosshair, their brother in arms. We talked about that last week. And I think the one thing we didn't talk about much last week was Crosshair struggling with the loss of his brothers. Even though he kind of considers them traitors now, it doesn't mean that he can just write them off as so easily. I think in his heart, he still considers them his brothers, and wants to sort of get them back in the fold, I would imagine. I mean, that one shot of him sitting solo on his bunk sort of implied that, like, he definitely misses them and wants them to come back into the service, the Imperial service, and be the good soldiers that they used to be. Just my thought there. So yeah, no, a lot of, like I said, this show has a lot of potential to be really multifaceted, and I would really like to explore that more. I do think the Batch needs a purpose, though. I need, like I said, a mission statement, a thesis, if you will. Like, let's get a plan in place. Hunter's got to get them on a path. These are highly trained, highly capable soldiers. Are they going to team up with Saw Gerrera down the road? What's coming up? What's in store? Or is it just like lay low, protect Omega, and call it a day? But obviously, I would think, and again, I speculate wildly at this point in the show, Hunter has to take note that there is the bounty out, and that has to kind of get his brain working, right? Like, all right, what's going on here? What's going on? Let's try and figure it out. And I guess it's actually now's a good time to play a sound clip from the end of the episode. Let's hit it.
She has to be a bounty hunter.
A what?
Someone hired to retrieve targets.
And you appear to be the target.
Me?
Hey, don't scare the kid. We have to find out who she is and who hired her.
Yeah, there you go. So maybe that'll be the next priority is trying to smoke out Fennec Shand and figure them out. Like, you'd think they'd be pretty good at that. We'll see. You know, if that is that the next move? Is that down the road? Or we don't know. We don't know. But again, I did enjoy this episode. There's you know, not a lot to this one. There's not a ton of meat on the bone for this one, but it's a solid 7.5. I think. Yeah, I mean, I can make the argument for 7, but I'll go 7.5 because it is fun. It is enjoyable, and I did get a kick out of seeing Fennec back in action here. And I like the idea of her being the character who's going to pursue the Bad Batch on behalf of the Kaminoans. It looks like. Again, I'm TBD on that, but that's the way it seems to be going. All right. That is the show. Let's wrap it up because I don't think I have much else to say about this episode. Really, really enjoyable. We'll end up watching it again a couple more times over the weekend. And yeah, if I have any other thoughts on it, we'll talk about that on next Friday's episode when we break down episode 5 of The Bad Batch. So this past week on Monday, hopefully you have checked out the entire episode. I know it was a bit of a long one. We did our rewatch on the Star Wars Vintage tab. We checked out Caravan of Courage on there. I had a lot of fun watching that movie. I had a lot of fun doing the podcast talking about that movie. I mean, it's a silly, ridiculous kind of movie. But there was something about it that I still enjoyed at the same time, too. So hope you listened to that. Hope you enjoyed that. We're going to continue to explore that Vintage tab, and we're going to get to the Battle for Endor probably in a couple of weeks. But I am going to space those out because there's kind of a run of episodes of the Clone Wars that I want to make sure that we cover, on subsequent Mondays. I want to make sure we deliver like the next 4 or 5 episodes of the Clone Wars, kind of boom, 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 and then we'll interject some more of the vintage stuff in there for your listening pleasure. If you're checking out. If you have taken the time to check out the Tomcast podcast, I hope you're enjoying that show as well. We got a big episode coming up in June. Which I know you're like, June? Who cares about June? It's May 21st. Well, June's around the corner, and there's something big coming up. And if you're a fan of Star Wars, I suspect you'll be a fan of this as well. So stay tuned to that. I'll keep you posted on that. I hope you're enjoying those episodes of that podcast. If you're checking that out, we will start our Loki coverage when that begins on June 8th. So get ready. We're doing a lot of stuff over there on the podcast as well. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to the Mando Vision podcast. My name is Tom. This is the podcast that I enjoy all the podcasts that I'm on, but talking about Star Wars is the highlight of my day every time that I get to do it. And I thank you all so much for taking the time and listening to it, listening to me blather on about my love of the Star Wars. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We wouldn't be here without you guys. And yeah, we're going to keep cranking it out because, again, Star Wars isn't stopping anytime soon, and neither are we. Remember, the best way to reach out to us, once again, is on social media. We're at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. Share it with people you have blood feuds with, life debts with, all that good stuff. If possible or so inclined, 5-star reviews are the easiest way to support the podcast. They help small independent shows like us stand out, not get lost in the mix of all the other shows that are out there. And we thank you in advance for taking the time to do that. It's really, really important. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And with that being said, let's get out of here. You guys have a weekend to live. I hope you're having a good time. Depending on what state you live in. I hope things are getting better out there, getting safer out there. Everyone's getting comfortable again. Maybe you don't have to have the mask on all the time anymore. You can go out, breathe the fresh air, and not worry about anything. But still, remember, take care of yourselves, take care of others. If you are in a state where masks are required inside, like when you're shopping or anything like that, remember those people that are working there are there to help you, and they're not the ones making the rules. So be kind to them, and you don't have to thank them for being there because it's their jobs, but it's always really nice when you do. So just remember those people. They have helped us out a ton over the last year, and I just wanted to point that out real quick before we get out of here. All right, again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll be back next week. On Monday, new episode of the Clone Wars rewatch will drop. And then we'll be back here on Friday for another episode of The Bad Batch. With that being said, this is the Mando Vision podcast. My name is Tom. And this episode, oh my goodness, this podcast can only end one way. And this is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
This is the way.
You expect me to search the galaxy for the home of this creature and deliver it to a race of enemy sorcerers?
This is the way.